Okay. Today we're on lesson number 344 of the Workbook of A Course in Miracles. Still learning and still being shown by Jesus how to keep our mind, how to hold our mind. See, these are the decisions when we make. Nothing happens but by our decision, okay? Nothing happens but by our decision. But how do I say this? The decision requires implementation in order for you to get the result of it. It's not passive in that sense. It's a very active decision-making process by which your mind actively holds space open for something other to enter in, where previously you would have relied on the past or someone else to give you an answer, or searching outside of yourself. So it's an activity of mind. Decision making here is an activity of mind that how do I say this? The decision that you make is demonstrated to you by the experience that you have. That's the reversal that occurs here. So we know the decisions that we're making by the experiences that are being presented to us. Okay? Because the thoughts that we think are the thoughts that really are, that's the distraction that the ego uses to keep us from going within, to find out what's really being used to generate the thoughts, to generate the, how would I say this? To generate the perceptions that are being projected, and to keep the illusion occurring by never going down to where it's actually being broadcast from, because we're up in here doing thinking about distractions. Rather than I read today as somebody, the only thing that really has to be healed in any of us is the sense of separation from God, because there is only one problem, there's only one solution. The idea that we're separate, which is what the ego fosters, separative and separation experiences whenever we are identified with it. So conversely, what I'm saying is, you know you are identified with the ego when the experiences that you're having are in line with those of separation and the effects that it brings. You know the decisions that you're making for the atonement when you begin to have experiences that are in line with the teaching, in line with the thought system as it's proven true to us by our willingness to decide for the atonement, yet not know what that means, giving up expectations and holding a clean space in our mind where we join, where the separation is healed by joining with the Holy Spirit, which is, in a sense, it's talked about as a symbolic function. The symbolic function that he has in your mind is to represent the totality of your reality within the little space that you're willing to give him. Okay? So he's a symbol of the whole, which contains the totality of the whole within the identifying with not merely the symbol, but the activity that God created that symbol to have behind the names that we give it, if that makes any sense. Today I learned the law of love, that What I give my brother is my gift to me. It brings it. There's a song that I'll play later, nothing this is it, but I'll put with it. This is your law, my father, not my own. I did not understand what giving means. We have to get to the point in this course when we don't just rely on past understandings and definitions of words because we've used them and we think we know what they mean. We're being asked to question everything we believe in the light of what we're being offered by Jesus, including the meaning that we give words. So, in a sense, this is a giving with an expectation of receiving is not what giving is. That's what commerce is. That's what exchange is. Giving is freely giving with no expectation simply because you were created to give. You have been forgiven. So therefore, you have been given before you are asked to give that which you need and have received in order to continue the unbroken chain of communication of the law of love that's established by our Father in our creation and by the law that binds us to the freedom and joy that the utilization of that law will show us we are. Okay? I looked upon the treasure that I thought I had. I found an empty place where nothing ever was. In other words, there's this moment, there's an idea. I don't know how to say this. There's a moment, and this comes in everyone who decides to accumulate in a certain way. You accumulate whatever it is you think you need to have in order to survive. And then all of a sudden, the moment comes where the utilization of what's been accumulated is required because you're beginning to feel the pressure of the condition of separation in space-time that you've staved off by distracting yourself in the action of accumulation and thinking that you're going to have and being happy about your future projections about what you're saving and squirring away is going to keep you from experiencing, if that makes any sense to you. And now, bingo, here's the dawn of the day when you have been saving for, and now you're feeling that pressure of sacrifice and loss and not having enough, and you have to begin to give from what you've saved that prevented you from having the feeling that you're now having. And as you give from it, you cannot not but begin to have a deeper sense of loss and dissatisfaction without the joy that you thought you were going to have by the having of what you accumulated. Okay? That's not the way that you were created to live. It's not the way you were created to be. And it's certainly no way to live, because that is a way of death. And what I'm going to tell you is there's another way to live, and it's by learning the law of love. That which I give my brother, I give to myself. And you can never be asked to give something that you don't have, but you can be mistaken in what you're being asked to give when the opportunity is presented to you, and you rely on the ego to make the decision as to what you're being asked, rather than stopping and using the simple lessons that Jesus is teaching us as a way to access an answer that is within your ability to be and give, so as to actually solve the problem, rather than living within the realm of the ego and rendering to the ego what the ego asks for, because that is the way we can maintain the dissatisfaction and existence of the space-time dream of illusion, by verifying the condition of need within it and thinking that need can be satisfied by what we make to demonstrate lack. If that makes any sense. Who can share a dream? And what can an illusion offer me? An illusion is an illusion is an illusion. It doesn't matter what part. It's one of the things I don't understand about the whole idea of fear of aliens. Okay, what part of this dream is not part of the totality of the illusion of the dream that you seem to be locked in? Or another way to look at it is, if there is only what God created, then if there is aliens, he must have created them also. So they must be a hell of a lot like you underneath the fearful garb you cover them with in order to distract yourself from where the healing really needs to occur. Let me forgive. Yet he whom I will forgive will give me gifts beyond the worth of anything. Yes, this is a great idea, and I cannot teach this experience. I can talk about it, and I can foster within you, hopefully, the desire to want to know the truth of how this works and how it is true. How when you forgive, how do I say this? Okay, I'm looking at it because they're being shown it. Okay. When you forgive, it's releasing yourself and your brother from all the misperception, as in for all the chains that you've used to imprison both you and he. And in the joy of that instant of forgiveness, the chains are broken and whole perfect thoughts naturally rise back to where they came from, which is the wholeness of the kingdom itself. And they go into a storehouse where they are increased by our own adding to them, so that when it comes time for us to require, in a sense, how do I say this? As in Jesus's case, okay? When he stood up in front of the masses and said, no, just bring me what we have. I will bless it. I will incorporate it into my eternal, whole, perfect nature. He did it with the wine at the feast, and they thought the wine was better, and they wondered why the stewards had withheld the good wine for the end, because of course you want to serve the good wine first, get everybody drunk on the good wine, then when they're all drunk you give them the bad wine. Nobody really cares. And what Jesus did was reverse the physical laws, showing that there is no loss in giving. In fact, when you incorporate and make everything part of you in the infinite nature and your mind is open, it goes into the storehouse and is immediately available to solve the problem of the situation, simply because you are not attempting to use the laws of the world, but live in the certainty that the law of love can be fulfilled through you. When you are true to it, it will be true to you. And Jesus, in the process of going through the purification that he went through, the 40 days in the desert, learned how to be true to the law and true to himself and to creation as well. Let my forgiven brothers fill my store with heaven's treasures, which alone are real. Thus is the law of love fulfilled, and thus your son arises and returns to you. How near we are to one another. Yes. Oh. Without the experiences that come to bless you, without the experiences that come to show you in visions and in vision that the eyes of the body cannot see, nor can the world recognize, but which are clear and plain to you as the Son of God, okay? what Jesus speaks of in the closeness that we are to each other and the nearness of us to our Father, and how close the end of the dream is not understandable, because we would still be looking toward the ego's attempt to define those words for us, rather than the understanding of the words through the experiences that have been brought to us. That's the purpose of this book, of A Course in Miracles, of communication with Jesus. To go beyond the word to the experiences, so that the experiences begin to what we make our decisions based on, by deciding for what has been given us in vision and in the experiences of truth that come with that as we utilize these laws, so as to prove to us that reality as being both what we would prefer if we had a preference. So therefore, what we singularly desire, because with the understanding of the fact that this is an illusion and it cannot be shared, we necessitate the integrity of our spirit and soul to discover what is shareable and begin to recognize it beyond the body's eyes, right here where we previously thought that only sickness, pain, suffering, and sacrifice were the result and was our end. How close the ending of the dream of sin and the redemption of God's Son. When I was blessed to be able to be given a vision of myself as a soul, remember, the two worlds don't meet. So the idea, that's why I left, the idea of closeness, if we attempt to utilize the ego's understanding of closeness, makes no sense whatsoever, because the world of space and time and the kingdom of heaven don't meet in any place at all. They are mutually exclusive. So the idea of being close within a world that excludes the one we think we are close to becomes laughable when we recognize that the nearness and closeness to the Father and the kingdom is based not on anything in space and time, but on awakening from a dream of separation, that which happens instantaneously when your mind is held within the right conditions and you're sufficiently no longer willing to allow fear and guilt to tell you what the hell is going on around here.